Hello, and welcome to another riveting episode of The Devil's Advocate. I'm your host, Mitchell Drayton, and today we're diving into a world of cinematic what-ifs. Ever watch a movie and wonder what you would do if the script were flipped? Well, now's your chance. Chime in, share your thoughts, and let's unravel those alternate realities together. Don't forget to check out the polls, drop your comments, and hit the notification bell so we can stay in touch. And let's have a fantastic time. Let's go. We have another one today, and this one is taking place out at sea. It does star Mark Wahlberg, and this one didn't have me at the edge of my seat. However, it kind of made me grind my teeth. And the reason for that, and probably the whole theme of this movie, is profits over safety. Now, a lot of people would say that I would choose someone's safety over profit. But this show was called Devil's Advocate. So if you're on the corporate side of things, you are probably going to wager more on the profit side. You would probably also say that you mean to do nothing but right by those underneath you, and that safety is of the utmost importance. Now, that is more like a smokescreen for the majority of us, and we really know what they mean. I will say safety when there are cameras on or there is some type of recording, but as soon as those things are down, I am all about profit, and safety takes a back seat. So as I said, this one takes place out at sea. BP has some, we'll say, some top-level guys out there that are calling some of the shots. Some of the shots because the person that actually owns the rig and is responsible for doing the drilling is not BP. They're more like a contractor that's brought on to do the job for them. Now, everything seems to check out. It starts off like any other movie where they're at home and they're showing you the background. Mark Wahlberg has a wife at home, no kids on this one, so there's no other heartstrings to pull. But the wife, nonetheless, is very concerned for the type of job that he does, and rightfully so. You are literally pulling oil out of the seabed, and then there's a possibility that a spark of some sort could ignite the entire thing. And that is something to be worried about, and it's a tough job. So to get into it, kind of fast forward, they get on helicopters, they get out to the rig. There is a boat off maybe 300 some odd yards. I'm guessing that's for safety reasons as they pull as they call it, mud from the seabed. It goes and gets pumped into said boat so they can take that and then refine it into whatever BP is going to use it for. So they touch down, and as they're touching down, there's a crew that's leaving. Now, this crew that's leaving starts to cause concern for the crew that's arriving. And the reason for it is because the person that's going to be taken over for the pumping of said mud is asking all the right questions. He's like, why are you leaving? You were supposed to be doing a check on the cement that was poured. So this company was hired by BP, but BP is putting profits over safety. And instead of paying somewhere around 125 grand for this company to do said check on the cement, they decide to forego that and just start pumping that mud sooner than later. So all these guys, as they're leaving, are saying, you're going to have to talk to this guy and this guy because they're the ones that are calling the shots. And these are the BP execs or whatever, the leading guys for BP out there. And with that being said, they hop on their aircraft and they zoom off. Now, the guy that's in charge goes and he starts talking to other people. Who's telling people that, they're supposed to do the checks? Did they do the checks? Nobody seems to know. He finally gets a hold of the BP reps and he's like, did you not have them do the checks? And the guy with a very strong country accent says that, well, we are already behind schedule. We might as well go ahead and start pumping this mud. He's all about profit, but he says that there should be no concern because if there was some concern, some of that mud would be coming up on one of their ship's deck or the rig's deck. But because there is none, then, kind of like you're claiming ignorance, there's no reason to do any other checks. Just let's start doing it. If I haven't already said, they're about, 34 days behind pumping already. So they haven't pumped anything. 34 some odd days behind. And they want to get that profit going so they can move on to the next site and the next site and the next site. So you can see where we're going here. Profit, 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 all these places. The guy that is in control of the rig, that, is the contractor that's doing the pumping, says that, I don't like what you did, and I'm going to do a negative pressure check just to make sure that it will hold when and if we decide to start pumping all this mud. So he does a negative pressure check, and unbeknownst to him, but to the viewers, of course, there are some underlying issues with that cement, and it does start to create some bubbles, which means that it's about to break and give away. Now, this rig is being kept in line with this this tubing, I guess you want to call it that, via a couple of motors and some fins, that keeps it, because it's floating. It's not stationary by any means. So after he does a negative pressure check, he gets that false positive that we know, but to him it's reading good, and he's not okay with that. He says, I need you to do another pressure check on the kill switch line. And he then leaves, and he trusts that his crew members will execute his orders. And they do. They do the other check, and even though it came out fine, it did redline a little bit, but it's not at 0. So their whole motto was it should start at 0, during the course of it, be 0, and then it should end at 0. It means no pressure or, positive, I guess, pressure on those lines that would cause it to even think that's about to blow. Which, by the way, backtrack, that negative pressure check did redline as well, but it ended up coming down within what they would call safety parameters. So they continued on. Now, the greedy BP guy says, go ahead and start pumping. And the other guy that's responsible for telling his guys then, because there's layers to this, right, to go ahead and start pumping, says, no, I'm not going to do this until, my guy that I listen to says it's okay. Well, he does give him a call, and he says, well, what do you think? And he said, well, it did read okay, so I think it's all right. So everyone's kind of second guessing themselves. And if you kind of get where I'm going with this one, if in your gut, you are saying that there's something not right, would you listen to it? And would you go ahead and would you shoot caution to the wind, or would you listen to your gut feeling and go against what other people are telling you to do? And no matter how much money you're making right now, is it worth your life, right? Anyways, they go ahead and start the pumping, and everyone's cheering because they're like, money, 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 right? They're all singing that song. But sure enough, the music changes, and things are about to go down. The mud does start to pump up, and before you know it, it's spewing everywhere. Now, they already had the gut feeling that something wasn't right. They didn't listen to their gut feeling. They threw it to the wind. They listened to the BP execs, and here we are with stuff going awry, and they're trying to mitigate it as much as possible. Probably about another 10 minutes go by with them trying to get everything under control. They hit one safety measure that kind of collapses a valve around it, and it forces the mud to stop pumping, but the pressure is still going up. It breaks through, and then they hit another one, and they close it off again, but that one doesn't last as long as the first one, and then the mud breaks through, and then it erupts one more time onto the deck above, and then at this point, it's starting to tear things apart. There's gas going, all over the place. It ignites, and then there's a fire on board. Now, this rig is so big that the other side, where they are responsible for kind of like, we'll call it the navigation as well. They're moving, like I said, those blades to keep it in line so that the tubing that's pumping the mud doesn't snap. They are of concern. They look out the window, they notice the fire, and one of the young ladies that's up there that's responsible for the movement of that rig says, I'm going to cut the line. And now there's another guy that is also above her that says, you better not do that. Now, her gut feeling was, I'm going to cut this line because I want to make sure that nothing else happens. Well, because that one guy says that you better not do this. And by the way, he's not a BP exec. He came on that boat, or that rig, just like everybody else. She listens to him. And he, once again, says that we don't have the authority to do it, but I'm pretty sure his gut feeling said that we should cut that line. He knew there was a fire on board, and he didn't do it. Now, I'm pretty sure at this point, you're probably thinking now, once again, why are people saying that the safety of the crew is not more important than profit, or the fact that they don't have the authority to cut that line? Now, ask yourself the question, like I said, for those who are at work, ask your coworkers, would you cut that line? Sever it completely to where it's going to probably cost them $1 million to reopen it later on. So I'm not going to give you what I'm going to do. I just need you to ask yourself, ask your spouse, ask your coworkers, what would they do? Now, because they didn't cut this line, like I said, there's a fire. Things start to erupt even more. The power goes down. It just wreaks havoc on this entire rig. Things are just blowing up. Now, the one person that came down, like I told you, he's a head contractor. His shower, he was in the shower at the point in time, ends up blowing up, and he sustains or withstands a lot of injury. Mark Wahlberg ends up finding him, brings him to the deck where the navigation is being taken care of, where the young lady wanted to cut it, and he says, we have to cut this line. Now, by this time, probably a good, we'll say 20 minutes has gone past. Lifeboats are being filled up, and they're trying to get off that into that rig that's about 300 yards away. The head guy, the contractor, says, let's cut this line. So he hits an emergency button. I think he turns a key, and it starts to shut. And you see these two huge blades starting to close up on this line, and they touch it, but they do not end up snapping that line and severing it. The reason for it is by that time, there's so much pressure that it just breaks those blades. So imagine that, there's a crap ton of pressure being pushed up. Because remember I told you it kept on exceeding the parameters that they should be in, which were the safety measures, right? So we have layers of people not trusting their gut. We have layers of people saying they don't have authority and just go ahead and, let's say, risking it for the biscuit. They could have been cut this line, but they chose not to. And here we have it where in the end, it's around 12 to 13 people that passed away due to this, we'll say, willful negligence with the BP. And then also willful negligence from the people that should have trusted their gut and should have cut that line way sooner than what they did, because the window of opportunity definitely closed. So take the time, ask those questions. What would you do? Put yourself in the perspective of the BP representatives that are trying to push those profits, probably trying to get those Christmas bonuses, for their family, because they do have family. They're still human. And then also put yourself in the place of the crew members. Now, what would you do? Would you say, no, it's all about safety because I know the men and women that I work alongside and I value them and I want them to see their family? Or do you also side with the corporate side because maybe you also get a part of that profit? Well, we'll see what you have to say. Comment like you did before. And if there is a poll, please go ahead and participate. But until next time, I'll see you. That wraps up this episode of The Devil's Advocate. I'm your host, Mitchell Drayton. Thanks for diving into the What If with me. Now it's your turn. Drop your thoughts, hit the polls, leave a comment, and keep the conversation going, people. Until next time, stay curious and stay questioning.